Hello, welcome to Tales from the Bridge. My name is Tristan.
I'm James.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Sam.
And we've got some science fiction science fact for you. We're going to be talking a bit about warp speed.
After that, we're going to discover what other things we've been reading and watching.
And it was my book of the month, and this month it was The Humans by Matt Haig, so we'll have a little chat about that as well.
And don't forget to stick around to the end. You're going to find out what book we're going to be reading for next month.
And as always, please subscribe to the show, rate the show, write us a review, or email us with a book recommendation or a film recommendation. We always love to hear from you, and thank you for joining us today. All right, let's make our way over to the bridge.
So, for science fiction science fact, we've got to talk a little bit about warp drive, because typically that's fully in the realm of science fiction, not in the realm of science fact. Over the years, there's been theoretical physicists who have talked about, there's theoretically the possibility of doing warp drive if you do this and this. And of course, there's a lot of other people who say we can never, ever go faster than the speed of light. And that's probably the case. And of course, in science fiction, we've got things like Star Trek, Enterprise, the warp nacelles that go to the side of spaceships, and they can go faster than light. And that's as simple as that, right? We wave our hands around, and FTL is a thing. Warp nacelles are not a thing. Back in the 90s, they did have this theory that warp drive could be possible if we had a whole bunch of antimatter and a whole lot of energy. And in that case, they could maybe make some type of a warp bubble around a craft, like a football-shaped craft, and the amount of energy that would be required would be almost the same amount as energy that exists in our entire universe. And so these scientists said, well, it could be possible, but it would take all of the energy in our universe to be able to make it happen. And so we all kind of crossed our arms and said, okay, theoretical physicists, this sounds like a waste of our time. But this month, a group of scientists with Casimir Inc., which was formerly NASA's Eagle Works. So these are some fairly famous theoretical physicists who also know a little thing or two about space travel, said, you know what, actually, I think we could make a stable warp bubble. And to do it, we wouldn't need antimatter. We could do it with just regular matter. And not only that, do you know what the spaceship would look like? It would have two warp nacelles off the side of it, just like the Enterprise. And of course, it would still require an insane amount of energy, but it would be like the equivalent of the amount of energy stored up in Jupiter. So if we could just take Jupiter, squish it down into little bits of energy, we could potentially, theoretically, go faster than light with Star Trek-style warp nacelles. And just to be clear, if anybody wants to look this up, it's by a scientist, Dr. Harold White, along with J. Vera, A. Sylvester, and L. Dudzinski from Casimir Inc. And this journal was published in the Journal of Classical and Quantum Gravity. I don't understand it, just to be clear, but I heard that it looked like Star Trek warp nacelles and that we don't need all of the energy in the universe to make this happen. So I thought that was cool.
So Kevin, I have some serious and advanced questions that I would like fulsome answers from you on, if I may.
Absolutely.
As a resident theoretical physicist, could you maybe explain a little bit about, like, does it fold, like, how does it work? Like, does it fold space? Like, what is the drive doing exactly? I think that's where I get lost. I got lost pretty early. Like, as soon as we start mathing, I'm
Yes.
almost out immediately. But yeah, like maybe a little more around that concept would be super helpful
What I
to me
think
at least.
happens is there's a whole bunch of flying monkeys that zip around them very, very quickly and make ooh, ooh, ee, ee sounds, and then suddenly FTL. That's
Ah,
that's that's my understanding of it. But what I did hear is that they used the words warp bubble and nacelles, and that you don't need all of the energy in the universe to go FTL, and it doesn't require any antimatter. It requires regular matter for this to occur. And apparently the math is good, but it was just published December 8th, 2025. So this is still fairly recent. So it could be a lot of hooey, but these sound like reputable folk. So long story short, Sam, I've got no idea.
it's still super cool. I love the idea that like Star Trek somehow got pretty close, right? Like that's kind of wild.
But here's another cool thing. Have you guys ever heard of the Kardashev scale? It's a science fiction concept. It's basically a way of rating the advancement of civilizations or potential civilizations. And so a type 1 Kardashev scale civilization is one that can harness the power of an entire planet. And so humans are considered to be about a zero point 0.7 on the Kardashev scale because we can harness around 70% of the energy on our planet. And by energy, we mean the amount of sun coming to the planet. And so I don't know where that zero point 0.7 comes from, but apparently that's a thing. A type 2 Kardashev scale civilization is one that can harness 100% of the energy coming from a sun. So, like, imagine a Dyson sphere and has solar panels all on the inside of it, and they can harness that energy. A type 3 is able to harness all of the power of a galaxy. So, previously, in the 1990s, theorization of warp travel would require like a type 3 or a type 4 to be able to go FTL. This plan is somewhere less than a type 2. So, somewhere between where we are and a type 2 society. So, it's almost achievable by an advanced version of us. Because Jupiter, I mean, that's like nothing. We could just swoop out there and squish it up into some energy.
So like if we hit like 1.5 kind
Yeah,
of thing,
I would
we
say
could
so.
like, huh,
FTL it up.
that's super cool, actually.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people say that Star Trek is more realistic science fiction. And I mean, maybe sort of because it's based in the real world, but it's still complete fantasy. The whole idea that they walk around like it's normal gravity on a spaceship makes no sense at all. So when something goes fast and warp speed, humans wouldn't be able to handle that, right? Like that would still like there's no protection when you're inside. That's still fantasy from Star Trek, correct?
I mean, I have to imagine that all of this would be quite fantastical. But yes, I guess you could just accelerate slowly, right? If you accelerated at 1G and you keep accelerating for several years, I think you'd get pretty close to the speed of light or faster. So, like, I think theoretically we could do it.
Just to visualize this, if we're traveling at 1G slowly to pick up speed, then our ship is traveling in one way and we are basically standing sideways on it, like we get
Yeah,
visualized more in the
yeah,
expanse than we would in Star Trek.
that's right.
Although here's my question about that too, and not that we have any real answers, but to me the idea of a warp or hyperspace, doesn't that kind of suggest sort of a breaking of physics, right? And a leaping outside of the regular universe. So I don't know if that concern about, the human body being able to withstand that acceleration, maybe it wouldn't apply because we'd be leaping into another dimension almost. I don't know.
That's a really interesting point. You know what? I think you're right because I think that the warp bubble does create a space of normal space within the bubble, and then that
Yeah.
whole bubble of non-normal space or whatever is accelerated faster than the speed of light. In this, like, not being somebody who actually knows what I'm talking about, but that is the general idea that I think I've heard in the past as well. So maybe you're right. Maybe you could accelerate faster.
Fun theories though. Fun
Yeah,
theories, totally.
fun theories.
Hopefully we can just keep ourselves intact on the planet until we can actually figure it out.
Yeah, and if the
Yeah.
idea is that you just have to have a really good idea of where you're going, and if this bubble sits sort of outside the parameters of normal space and time, perhaps things like velocity and meteorites and obstacles aren't necessarily the issue that we think of it as if we're just going really fast off a regular jet. What do I know? But I mean, I don't know. This
Yeah.
is the entertaining idea of sort of playing with an idea you know nothing about. But
Well, it's such a wonderful thing when the science fact is intersects with a very common sci-fi trope, right? And the warp nacelles and the warp bubble as being theoretically possible. I also loved that it brought this down one or two levels of the Kardashev scale. So suddenly a society significantly less advanced could theoretically do faster light travel with regular matter, like no need for antimatter or anything like that, which apparently is pretty cool.
that's cool. So, do we want to get into what else we've been reading and watching?
Oh
Yeah.
God, I can't even admit mine.
You can't admit yours. Oh, well,
Oh.
Kevin,
Yeah, you're
if I
going
could
first, buddy.
propose, yeah, you're going first.
Well, so
Way to paint that target.
I have been reading exclusively science fiction for a very long time. Some fantasy has been thrown in there, but I actually started not a fantasy book nor a sci-fi book for the first time in years. Does that make me sound terrible? But in any case, it's true. Um, And the book that I chose to read that was outside the realm of these is a Dan Brown book. So his latest book, The Secret of Secrets, somehow I got hornswoggled into reading that, and I'm partway through it. I don't think I recommend it. It's not horrendous, but it's certainly not sci-fi.
Well, I definitely want to hear more about it because I'm tempted. I did for the first time read this year the Da Vinci Code just because I've heard about it for the last 20 years, and I thought, well, let me try this. And yeah, it's not great, but I did have fun. So I imagine this book was a little bit fun, or
It's
do you,
fun. It is fun. Yes, it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
It
There's
is.
room for beach reads and kind of guilty pleasures in your reading
Yeah, that's
repertoire,
true.
right?
That's true. I just feel more guilt than maybe. No, I'd say the pleasure and guilt are about equally weighted at this point.
Yeah, I know it feels
Set
like a
that guilt
confession,
aside.
right?
Yeah, it does.
Set that guilt aside. No room for that here.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm fine with reading romantasy. Yeah, that's no problem. Steamy sex scenes with Bjorn but yeah, Dan Brown. Ooh, gotta be careful.
I've been reading Slow Gods by Claire North and really enjoying that. I think she's created a very clever entry point. I'm still in like the early chapters, but she's created a very clever entry point into the story, and I'm enjoying that. It was a series of almost like like in the late '90s. The opening to like the Simpsons episodes where you started in one place and you ended up somewhere completely different, and I always thought that was super clever and it was really well done. And although not The Simpsons, and a far more serious story, it's that same very clever way in where you start somewhere and the story is going in a direction and then it shifts direction very quickly, and then you find yourself with the protagonist in a very different space telling the story, and the vehicle there is really interesting. And so far so good on that. And then in terms of watching, Pluribus, I've been enjoying that and highly recommend. I think I talked about this last time. It's fantastic. Like this is just masterclass TV, and I definitely give that like a complete recommendation, a fearless recommendation on Pluribus for sure.
I've been watching those two. They are excellent. I just wish they came out more frequently. The weekly thing is just too slow for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's like watching TV back in the 2000s again, or in the 90s. Yeah.
Well, on the note of kind of slow TV releases, I'm just going to skip to the TV. I haven't been watching anything else or reading anything else rather, but Pluribus is on my list. It looks fantastic. But the first 4 episodes of the 5th and final Stranger Things season came out, and I've been a fan since day one. And giving a shout out back to our guest from last year, Kate Trefry, who was on the show, one of the writers. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have watched any of this first batch of episodes that have come out. It's the same cast of characters, which I find so remarkable that they can juggle all these characters and still give them enough screen time and make their stories still compelling. The flavor and the kind of feel of the season is a little bit different than the previous seasons because, as they say in Marvel, we're in the end game now, but it's still great, and I really can't wait for it's only a few days until the next next 4, I guess, or 3 come out on Netflix, and then the finale on New Year's Eve, which I think is a weird programming choice, but so be it. I will take it. It's I can't wait to see how they wrap this baby up. It's great.
I did. So this isn't totally sci-fi related, but this is a book that I would recommend to anyone. I read On Writing by Stephen King, which is it's semi autobiographical. And then the last half of the book, he talks more about how he writes and comes up with characters. This is not a book for people that just want to be writers. This is just a really entertaining book. And in the past year, have become a big Stephen King fan, I think. Like I've read 3 or 4 of his books this year, and they're just great. I don't know why I didn't do it earlier. But that was the latest Stephen King that I did do.
I'm surprised that he could write a book on writing about writing and that it's entertaining for non-writers. How does he do that? Is it just easy?
I agree. It's phenomenal. Yeah, I just to step in there too. You're absolutely right, Kevin. That it seems weird to come from him, but I read it a couple of years ago as well, and I'm kind of a middling King fan. You know, I like the Dark Tower series, a couple of the horrors, but On Writing is a great read. It's really fun and insightful, and yeah, highly recommended.
Finally, I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I don't know if you guys have read this one, but oh my God. So, and if I can just take a minute with Cormac McCarthy here, I've read about 6 or 7 of his books this year because I just love his writing. He just has this style. His stuff is so good. And then he's got a couple of books that are different. No Country for Old Men was a very different narrative style than his other stuff that I had read. So that was kind of refreshing, but I still really enjoyed it. The Road also is not very close to the way he wrote in the 90s and before, the 70s, 80s, 90s. But at the same time, oh my God, does that book stick with you? It breaks your heart. What This has got to be the saddest book I've ever read. Did you guys read The Road?
Yes, and I never want to read it again.
Well, it's not a book you want to read twice. No.
Yeah, no, it is heartbreaking. It is just like, especially if you're a parent, like it's just
Yes.
you're reading it. I read it like very quickly. Like I burned through it. Like I couldn't put it down. It was like a car accident I couldn't turn away from. And yeah, I walked around with a knife in my gut for a week after, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it that's very powerful, and it is a short book. So anyone out there looking to get into an easy read, it's a very easy read. Be in the right headspace to read something heavy because it is a dark gray post-apocalyptic world with no food, no water, and people that may or may not want to eat you. And you're alone with your child. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this like pragmatic style that just makes it all the more grim. You know, that it's just a
Yeah.
sort of plainly told awfulness, and that there's it just didn't that alone, that sort of voice is kind of heavy enough, right? And Cormac McCarthy's he's got a heavy voice as it is when he wants to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention one last thing before we cap this segment, and this is a little bit of a different thing, but on the topic of science fiction properties and material that we love, and I'm really dating myself again here, as I seem to like to do on the show, but I don't know if you guys saw in the news that a couple of days ago, Gil Gerard passed away, who played Buck Rogers in the late 70s Buck Rogers in the 25th Century TV series. Passed away from cancer, 82 years old. I dating myself, but I love that series. You know, it was one of those late 70s spin-offs, mutated out of the success of Star Wars. But between Gerard's portrayal of Buck and the wacky robots and the funny thing is, it's even less in my mind clear memories than it is impressions and feelings and emotions that series gave me from back in the day, because it was the opposite of The Road. It was bright and colorful and silly and fun. And so, I don't know, it makes me want to go out and get a, Blu-ray box set of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century just to revisit that. Thanks for everything, Gil Gerard. And I just wanted to read a little thing that apparently his wife posted to social media after his passing. And I think it's just a nice way for him to have gone out. And he wrote, "My life has been an amazing journey. The opportunities I've had, the people I've met, and the love I have given and received have made my 82 years on the planet deeply satisfying. Don't waste your time on anything that doesn't thrill you or bring you love. See you out somewhere in the cosmos." So,
Nice quote.
That's awesome.
That is nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So enjoy that cheesy sci-fi, people.
All right, book of the month.
Yes. So this book of the month, it was my pick. I went with The Humans by Matt Haig. The Humans is essentially Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret meets Resident Alien. So an alien is sent to Earth to stall human advancement and begins to find value in humanity's imperfections. He finds that He's unable to fully complete his mission and kill all of those who have any knowledge of the math formula that will advance the species. And now he must contend with his new human found feelings. The book kind of functions as a sort of Beatles hook to psychology and what it means to be human. And I think it's a pleasant read and a nice gateway to some big areas of study. Like it's kind of a gentle introduction to some really interesting academic modes of thought and psychological modes of thought and just philosophical modes of thought as well. And worth it just for that. I know the book has gotten some criticism for trying to be a catch-all of everything, but I don't think there's anything wrong with a gateway book. And that's sort of what I take this as. It's kind of funny, and I really enjoyed it. It was a nice read. I kind of needed like a kind of mid-stakes kind of read, and that's what this was. And it starts off with a nice kind of grabby hook again and brings you into a nice story. So, anyways, but I'm more curious to hear what you guys thought of it.
So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was really easy to read. Like this, I feel like it only took a couple of days or 3 days of the hour or two that I take reading a day to read this. It was just very easy for the pages to turn. When you first said we were reading this, I remember replying with my first reaction, which was, it's really cute. Like, yes, there's murder in it and there's some dark spots, but something about it's really cute. Like there's something interesting about this alien who kind of had no empathy or sympathy for the human race at the beginning, who gains it. Um, but this alien always seemed kind of innocent. So I don't know, just the way that was written was almost innocent and simple, even though there were some dark moments. Um, I also appreciated the relationship with the teenager and the parent. That kind of was relatable for me because I forget how that turned out, but I remember it being rocky at the beginning and then changing and making me feel good about what Matt Haig had written by the end. And yeah, it's a good, like you said, it's a good entry book, right? Like this would not, sci-fi readers, hardcore sci-fi readers wouldn't be like, oh man, you got to read The Humans. But it is a great entry book. I'd say this is good for teens too, or anyone who's just starting off and wanted to see what it's like to read something a little more sci-fi on the sci-fi edge. Um, it's definitely not YA though. It doesn't go back there, but I'd say it still is good for young readers. So yeah, I remember really enjoying this book. I did really enjoy this book, and I'm also interested to read. So this is the only book by Matt Haig that I've read, and I have heard that the Midnight Library is very good, and it's in a lot of top 10 and top 20 books of the decade or the 21st century. I've seen the Midnight Library show up a lot. So I haven't read that yet. I'm not sure if you guys have, but I'm intrigued to read that one. If I do read another Matt Haig in the next few months, that'll be my go-to. But overall, I think this is a good pick. Nice, light, and easy. Mid stakes, like you said, Sam. Totally. Enjoyable book for sure.
I agree. I think a nice exploration of the human condition. I mean, you need a good alien to be able to look at humanity with a bit of perspective, and this is one way to do it. It's a good character book. I think that there are some actually good sci-fi concepts here. The aliens, whatever they're called, they try to intervene in societies that are not ready for faster than light travel or space travel. They try to stop their movement forward technologically. In this case, it was the Riemann hypothesis. This guy Andrew Martin was going to solve it, and they knew that, and they came in and stopped that process because that was going to lead to humanity's advancement. That talks about the Fermi paradox, right? It's a way of saying here's a gate that societies have to pass through, which is these aliens basically swooping in and intervening. Another interesting concept that came to mind was the alien embodying Andrew Martin. He literally embodied him. So he physically went into a human body, and surprise, surprise, he had human characteristics, right? So, like, if we're talking about neurochemistry and we're talking about biology, yeah, he's going to lust after human women, and he's going to feel love. He's going to feel these things he hadn't felt before. Um, and it's just, as a very pedantic viewpoint, of course, he's going to become more human. And but that sort of struck me. But it's a side note. But I would say there's some good sci-fi concepts in this book as well, and an enjoyable read. Certainly, it was a good pick, Sam.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to make of this one at first. When I got into it, I realized, okay, it's sort of the alien possession, alien impersonation story, which we've seen before, but it's always ripe for a new take. The theory again, to Kevin, as you rightly pointed out about playing into the Fermi paradox rather as well too, is an interesting. Part of that story that I hadn't even really considered. But yeah, I'm interested to hear more about what you were saying, Sam, about the book taking some criticism online, because I hadn't read any other reviews of it. But I kind of felt a little bit of that way in the first half. I was a bit like, what is this story trying to be? Is it trying to be a comedy? Is it trying to be, just a sci-fi? Like, where is this going? And some of the techniques, like the alien, the nameless alien, or Andrew Martin having trouble with certain human concepts, and putting them in quotes, but then not others, being sort of selectively confused about things. It was a bit jarring for me until I stopped being so stupid about it, and I just went with it. For a while I thought too, okay, this book is about math, and math is my kryptonite, so maybe I'm just too dumb to get this, and I would probably understand it on a whole other level if I was better with the old arithmetic. But then things shifted about halfway through the book. I don't know if you guys felt this as well too, but there was a gear shift. Things sort of changed, and what to me had felt a little aimless and a little without purpose, which is maybe intentional as well, grabbed me, and it definitely then evolved and became much more appealing to me. The slow start sort of evaporated. And I felt much more invested. So, yeah, it's an interesting book, and I think definitely a good choice for someone who is sci-fi curious, shall we say, but not really ready for hard sci-fi and a lot of technical thought or jargon. But because it also had a satisfying ending for me as well too. I thought the ending was quite deftly handled and human as well. So I would give it 3 out of 5 prime numbers to go with the theme of the book. And if there's a mathematician out there and I've messed that up, well, send us an email.
Yeah.
I did just want to jump in and say I do totally remember the first half of of this book, thinking, is this really just this simple? Like, because if it is, I don't know if I'm going to like this book. And then, yes, we got to the halfway point, and the sci-fi picked up, the characters became a little more intriguing, and it did next level. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the criticism comes from the fact that it's kind of like a musical review of shallow philosophical and psychological concepts, right? Like it's a bit of a buffet. You kind of dip your toe in a bunch of different waters there without getting too deep a dive. And so that's sort of what I talk about. It's a nice sort of entry point into a lot of interesting ideas. So you could sort of get introduced to an idea that maybe you want to go to take the academic route to sort of take a deeper dive into. But it functions as a kind of nice plot device to take you on and start you thinking about something. And so if you're interested in that kind of thing, that's why I take it as a kind of gateway book. Then yeah, like it's good for that, and maybe if you're stuck in certain types of thinking and you're looking for other ideas, this might be the book for you.
Well, one question I want to ask you guys is this totally had the body swap. You could call it a trope, the body swap trope.
Hmm.
Um, I guess. And there's so many of these silly movies, right? Like there's the families swap bodies now in these Disney movies. parents swap with their kids. It just seems like something that's happened many, many times. And then to read a book like this, I think that was a part of the beginning too. Is like, okay, so we just got a body swap. What do you guys think? Maybe this is, we can go a little philosophical here, but what is with the body swap, and why are humans so intrigued and want to see us, like, is it really just that we want to see different perspectives? Like, why are we drawn to a story of people swapping bodies, and in this case aliens?
Really, and again, philosophically, rather, what is reality but our perception? It's sort of hard to stomach that, and hard to really, there is reality, but it is all filtered through our senses and our, our fleshy meat organs and our brain bag, that then interprets that. So to be able to interpret that through someone else's receptors, say, I think would be a fascinating experience. Even something simple like someone who maybe is colorblind. The world looks different to that person. Or is hearing impaired. The world is different to that person. So I think even on a sort of a quote unquote baseline, there's a lot to be, or there would be a lot to be learned from that body swap, not to mention being able to write yourself absent notes from school, in your parents' handwriting.
Well, I mean, maybe there's curiosity about, imagining how you might reinvent yourself or how someone might see your life, you know, uh, you know, through their eyes as they inhabited your body. And here we are getting philosophical and psychological and all these sort of things off this book, right? Like this is what the book does. This is books like this do is they suddenly make you question these things and like, why is this? And here we are, and so good water cooler book, as well. Good for after talk. Uh, but yeah, like if I could inhabit someone else's other body and like take on their life, what would it? Is it a life that I envy and I take that on? I realize I find maybe there's not a lot to envy there, or vice versa. Like it's that kind of thing, right? Like we all wonder, I guess. Or it's easy to wonder about that sort of thing. Maybe that's it, but I'm taking a huge guess. I have no qualifications in any of the areas that this book touches upon. Again, as we careen through this episode of things we have little qualification to speak to, but maybe someone will write. We'll get some feedback, audience feedback on this one. They can set us straight. I think we hand it over to Kevin because it is Kevin's book of the month. And I think we're all pretty
Okay.
excited about it.
So this is an Alistair Reynolds book, and Alistair Reynolds is somebody that I've really enjoyed reading a lot of his books before. But the challenge is which book do I choose for this particular group? Because a lot of his books are long series, and they're great books on their own, but you don't get a ton out of them unless you read many of or several of the books in the series. He does have some standalone novels, and there's one in particular that is just epically large in scale in terms of sci-fi ideas, uh, and it's The House of Suns. Uh, House of Suns is, I think, it was written in 2008. It is, when I say epic in scale, it is about a group of people who travel around the galaxy in suspension, but with subliminal spaceships where you're going lower than the speed of light. It takes you eons to get around the galaxy, and they go around and they meet together every 200,000 years, and they see what happens in the galaxy as it shifts and changes, and there's intrigue and there's mystery, and there's mystery and intrigue at the level and scale that it's hard to describe. He likes to get into lots of different sci-fi tropes, and he explores these tropes in very interesting ways. So he's an ideas guy, and this is definitely an ideas book. But the characters are pretty good too. At least I think they are pretty good as well. So when you guys get through this one, it's not a super long one. I think it's a good, accessible, hard sci-fi book, and it's a good introduction to Alistair Reynolds. So I hope you guys like it.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, totally. It's I'm into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely into this. We did read Revelation Space. You also did, before we did the podcast, Kevin recommended or we did read Revenger
That's true.
by Alistair
That is true.
Reynolds.
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's right.
now it's fair to say that Alistair Reynolds is one of Kevin's favorite authors. I think it's fair to say that this has got to be true, right, Kevin?
I would say it is definitely one of my faves. That's right. I had actually forgotten we did Revelation Space back in 2023. I just see this here now. But yeah, this one's better. This is better than Revelation Space.
I'm excited for this because I love the hard sci-fi is often way too smart for me, but it makes me feel like I'm paying attention and trying really hard. So whether I understand it all or not is aside from my enjoyment in some way, because I always feel accomplished after reading Alistair Reynolds and Stephen Baxter and sometimes Hamilton. I just feel like it's a challenge, and I always love coming out of those books.
It's taken me a long time, I think, to sort of tune my reading ear to hard sci-fi. Like I've been slow to come to it, and but I've started to appreciate it more and more. So this is a great pick, Kevin. Already, I feel like I need to read more of this, more hard sci-fi, and start tackling the sort of difficult concepts that I struggle with in these books. Very cool.
And it's okay if you really want to come at this one, Sam, and just like if you don't enjoy it, like this could be good that we just fight over this one for 45 minutes. I'm fine with that.
Okay, yeah. We could use a little more conflict. We've been too polite lately. Is that what you're saying, Tristan?
We've been agreeable a little bit lately. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the book and our discussion on the book. Join us again next time. Lots more coming from Tales from the Bridge. More interviews, more book talk, more movie talk. Thanks again. Until next time.